Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pickdawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love the most, including my daily Bank Shop best bet in college basketball, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description, and we're running a Cyber Monday sale that runs to the end of Tuesday, where if you use the code CYBER, you'll save $25 at checkout. So make my Bank Shop best bet a $5 play for Tuesday, or use it on a long-term pass. My season pass for college hoops is also on a discount for Cyber Monday. So you get $25 in your account for this Cyber Monday sale, but make sure to use that code CYBER. And if you're interested, the link is in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday in college hoops. First up, we've got Texas A&M and Pittsburgh. This one is 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU, a part of the ACC-SEC Men's Challenge. Now, I faded Texas A&M in its last game against Florida State, mentioning that I think A&M is a really solid team, but a volatile team that will actually be able to pull off some upsets in conference play and the rest of non-conference play, but is also going to take some bad losses, and I think we'll finish near the middle of the standings in the SEC. Now, give credit to the Aggies. They had a nice blowout win at Florida State, or neutral site game, excuse me, but 95-59 the final score, for 16 turnovers up against a Florida State team that does such a good job at taking care of the ball. They're also a fast-paced team, so I didn't think the Seminoles would be intimidated by the pace of play and the aggressiveness that Texas A&M is defensively, but they were, and it was all Aggies in that one. Now, I really like this matchup for A&M up against Pittsburgh. Not only is this a clear letdown spot for Pittsburgh after their buzzer-beating win against Ohio State as a 5.5, 5-point dog, they won that game with basically a half-court shot at the buzzer to win it over the Buckeyes. But A&M just matches up really well in this game. Pittsburgh is a team that offensively I think will struggle mostly in the conference. We saw them win a low-scoring game against Ohio State. They really depended on that defense in that win. Their offense is slow-paced. They're not a great shooting team. They've turned the ball over quite a bit. About 18% of their possessions have ended in a turnover. All of those bode well for this A&M defense, which is 8th right now in defensive turnover percentage. And I think that Pittsburgh really does struggle offensively in this game. The Aggies are shooting the ball very well. They're a deep team offensively. I don't think they have really too many problems in this game scoring. And off of that buzzer-beating win, I have to fade Pittsburgh. I'm going to roll A&M in this one, lay the points. Next up, we've got Iowa and Michigan State. This one is 7 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. Should be a great matchup here. And the unfortunate thing about a lot of these conferences like the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten expanding so much is the fact that not all these teams are guaranteed to play against each other twice in the season series. And that's what we see here. This is the one and only matchup in the regular season between these two schools. And by the way, they'll both play a couple of conference games, this one and then one more, before getting back to non-conference action. The full-time Big Ten conference schedule starts at the very end of December, early January. So it's a bummer that these are two of the better teams in the conference. They're only going to have this one meeting in conference play. We could very well see them in the conference tournament, if not the championship. But for me, I think that Michigan State is just too sizable of a favorite in a game that I think is going to be very, very close. Iowa does a great job at limiting possessions. They're a great defensive team. We saw it in their last win, 59-46 over Grand Canyon. Exactly what this Iowa team is looking to do: slow the game down, limit the possessions. They force a lot of turnovers. They're a great rebounding team, and while they're not uncomfortable in a defensive battle, they're also a great offensive team. 12th in effective field goal percentage, good three-point shooting team. We talked about how this team is an experienced roster, not necessarily with Iowa, but last year a lot of these players played under Ben McCollum at Drake, which is also a tournament team. I really like what I've seen from Iowa. Michigan State's also been extremely impressive, and they're coming off a great win over North Carolina, a game where I faded Michigan State. It was a North Carolina lead early, but the Spartans, it was all Spartans second half, and they won that one by 16. But I still think that Iowa is good enough, shot quality-wise, defensively, to keep this game within a possession, if not win the game outright. I'm going to take the points here with Iowa. I would also sprinkle on the money line. I think the Hawkeyes are a live dog. Next up, it's Florida and Duke. This one at 7:30 Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN, another game in the ACC-SEC Men's Challenge. Now, Florida, the defending national champions, 2 losses on their resume so far. not miserable losses. The first was to Arizona, which has been proven to be one of the better teams in the country, and then the second to TCU, which is not a great loss, but still, a Big 12 team. I think TCU is a lot better than what we saw when they're in their upset loss to New Orleans at the beginning of the season. But the thing for me with Florida, obviously their backcourt play has not been up to standards, and it hasn't been good enough for the majority of the season for Florida to be a contender in the SEC this year. It has to be a lot better going forward. But I think the bright side, and when I say backcourt play, the perimeter shooting's been miserable. They've turned the ball over a ton. Xavier Lee was the big transfer piece added to Florida's roster in the offseason. He's had a really tough start to the year, especially with his three-point shooting. But the bright side, and a promising sign that we saw from Florida in their last game, was their 90-78 win over Providence, and we exactly saw what Florida wants to be in that game. It was 12 of 33 from three-point range, 36%. Xavier Lee himself was 4 for 9. He had 20 points, by far his best game of the season. Florida limited their turnovers to 8. Only about 11% of their possessions ended in a turnover. It was the best performance from the Florida backcourt by far, as Boogie Flan, and Xavier Lee combined for 37 points. The question is, can the Gators replicate that type of performance in a hostile environment in Duke against arguably the best team in the country, one of the hottest, one of the best teams in the country to start the year? I think that Florida has enough in this game to at least keep it close. And also, we got to mention, in that win over Providence, Alex Condon was held out of the lineup. He should be good to go. It looks like he'll be ready to return to the lineup for Florida in this game. Obviously, a huge piece for this Florida front court. So I think Florida's okay. I mean, they're still one of the best rebounding teams in the nation. Of course, defensively, one of the best defensive teams in the country, forcing a lot of tough shots. They're 18th best in three-point defense. Duke has got an impressive resume so far, wins over Kansas, Arkansas, and Texas. But overall, they've still played a pretty weak schedule, ranked 250th in strength of schedule, while Florida's taken on, I would say, a tougher schedule. They played neutral site games, a series of those against Arizona, Miami. They played a rivalry game against Florida State, took on TCU and Providence. So for me, I think Florida has enough in this game, and because of recent results and how the season has started, if this game was played on night one of the season, Duke wouldn't be this big of a favorite. I still think they'd be favored, but not by almost 10 points. But because of what we've seen so far, I think the market has overreacted, overadjusted a little bit too much. I'm going to take Florida plus the points in this one. I think they cover the number. I still expect Duke to win the game, though. Next up, we've got Miami and Ole Miss. This one is 9 p.m. Eastern on SEC Network. Now, both these teams have 2 losses on their schedule so far. Miami's losses were to Florida and to BYU, which I don't consider either of those bad losses, both at neutral sites. And I thought both were competitive games until the end, where we saw BYU extend their lead to 10 points. And then Florida, it was not the best last 10 minutes of the first half for Miami, but the rest of the way, it was a pretty competitive matchup. And on the other side, Ole Miss, they played a competitive game against Iowa, losing that game by 5 points. No shame in that. But the outright loss to Utah is where I have my biggest concern with this Ole Miss team. Not only is this defense still a little bit questionable in my opinion, but the fact that the Rebels only scored in the mid-70s against a really bad Utah defense concerns me quite a bit, because I think Miami is a really strong defensive team this year. They're forcing tough shots, great defensive rebounding team. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. I don't think that Ole Miss can go 40 minutes up against this Miami defense and score enough points to cover or win the game outright. I think that Miami is a lot better than what we saw in that loss to BYU. I think the offense will get going. They're taking pretty good looks offensively. Their shooting percentage is good overall, but they've struggled shooting-wise in those step-up games. And it's a true road game. It's their first true road game of the year, which is not my favorite spot to be in for a team, but at least they played those 3 neutral site games against those tough matchups, against those tough teams. I think that Miami is strong enough defensively, and like we said, defense travels. I think they're strong enough defensively to win this game, so I'm going to roll Miami plus the points in this one. Next up, we've got Missouri and Notre Dame. This one is 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. Now, Notre Dame 5-3 up against an 8-0 Missouri team, but Notre Dame has played a very tough schedule. Houston, a neutral site. Kansas is a neutral site. A win over Rutgers is a neutral site as well. A true road game in Ohio State. So Notre Dame, I don't think they're one of the better teams in the ACC, but they're still a solid team that's put together some solid numbers in these tough matchups. I mean, they were pretty competitive against Houston, covering the number in that game, holding the Cougars to 66 points. They were competitive at Ohio State. I did not like their matchup in that one, but they only lost by 1 point on the road. And a 10-point loss to Kansas is also not shameful for the Irish. While Missouri, blowout wins over South Dakota, South Carolina State, Cleveland State, they may look good on paper, but they have played the 364th ranked strength of schedule according to KenPom. They played absolutely nobody. Their most impressive win, a home victory over Minnesota. I think Minnesota could finish dead last in the Big Ten. I don't think a lot of people would be surprised. So for me, Missouri defensively, I still definitely have a lot of concerns with for this team shot quality wise. The offense is potent. They're a great shooting team, but they also turn the ball over quite a bit, and they have not played a tough defense. This is by far the toughest defense that Missouri has faced this year, which says a lot about that strength of schedule. I wouldn't want to take a team in this spot. I think it's a little bit different than when we talk about Miami being in their first road game. At least Miami played some really tough step-up games against Florida, against BYU. I think Missouri's in trouble in this one. I'm going to roll at Notre Dame at a pretty good price. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium, and there is a link in the description. And don't forget to use that code CYBER to save $25 at checkout. As always, Ron Romanelli, good luck.